who has a story to tell you that, if you believe it, will change everything we know, everything we think, the history of our technical development and where we are today. And we'll get back to that in a moment. I know some of you from Los Angeles are just joining. Good morning. CNN is reporting that indeed Cunanan is dead, apparently having committed suicide in a houseboat after being discovered. So it looks as though that story may be a wrap. Cunanan, repeating, is dead, according to CNN. Miami Beach police sources tell CNN the body discovered in a houseboat is indeed that of spree killer Andrew Cunanan, wanted for the murders of 5 men, including Italian fashion designer Gianni Versace. CNN reports members of Cunanan's family are now en route to Miami Beach. And I've got some more news that I'll sort of get to you as I can this evening. We're in the middle of a very, very important interview, and we're about to get back to it. All right, back now to my guests, both in Las Vegas, Dr. John Alexander and Colonel Phillip J. Corso. And I've got a fax here that says, "Hi, Art. This is really not complicated. Colonel Phillip Corso is simply telling the truth. The problem is there are going to be a lot of people that simply can't handle the truth, and they're going to be using a variety of psychological mechanisms, including suppression, denial, rationalization, to avoid dealing with this simple truth. And the truth is that, Colonel, you had all of this material given to you by General Trudeau, which you then apparently funded. In other words, you actually began to go to American industry and give them this material, along with budgets, to develop this technology. And what you're telling us is that the technology we enjoy today, much of it, fiber optics, night vision goggles, and on and on and on, all came from an alien crash or alien crashes. Do you know totally how many there were, Colonel?
No, I really don't have the count. I had about a dozen important items. So I don't know really. At the moment, I'd have to go through my notes that the book was taken from and see how many we did have.
Do you know, Colonel, whether you were the only one given these alien artifacts, or whether others were doing parallel work?
I heard rumors that the Air Force was doing parallel work.
Uh-huh.
But we never cross-fertilized because we kept it ourselves to protect our, let's say, our organization.
You also believe, do you not, that the Germans were doing some parallel?
They were doing it. Their scientists actually told me this, and people the caliber of von Braun and Obert.
All right. Yes. You've mentioned the names of several people, Colonel, who were involved over the years. Frank Kaufman, one of the still-living first-hand witnesses.
I met him at Roswell.
I had him as a guest on this program a couple of weeks ago and claimed to have been part of the cleanup team at Roswell. Can you confirm that Frank Kaufman was involved in the cleanup?
Yes, I met him out there. I think he was a sergeant then. And he was very happy that I finally came forward. We had dinner one night at the Roswell Inn there, in Roswell. So I was introduced to him. It's the first time I met the man. And it seems he's my age, I think. And he was very logical and very emphatic of what he saw.
All right. Well, one of the things he did, Colonel, was dispute your claim that a creature was shot at the crash site.
No, I'm not sure of that, whether it was shot or not. That I'm not certain of.
So that could be...
I think Kaufman is right on that.
All right.
I think I was sort of an error in there. I shouldn't have been in.
All right. Since you've written your book, this is a very, very important book. If you believe it, it changes all of our history, or a great portion of our history, and what we think of ourselves. Has anybody senior in government come to you since the publication of this book and told you to shut your mouth?
No. No one.
Why do you think that? Why do you think that?
When Mitchell, the astronaut, confirmed it, he confirmed that I was a sort of a maverick. And I don't take things that are trying to stop me from talking lightly if anybody would try it. Nobody's ever tried it.
And again, the things that you're able to talk about because they really weren't classified in the normal way.
Well, you can see that. The chip, for example, or the integrated circuit.
Yes.
It's now known worldwide.
Yes.
There's no classification. The supertenacity fibers, they're known worldwide now. There's no classification anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Fiber optics has developed tremendously since our day. Our communication, there's no classification anymore. The imaging devices, we made the first heart pump.
The first heart pump?
We made that. The Army did.
And that came from this technology as well?
Yes. For the hydrodynamics. We had a car at Harry Diamond Laboratory, a little cart that ran on water. Same as integrated circuits, the electricity we put water through and it ran. And I told Senator Glenn about this, and he wanted a photograph that I had. I gave it to him, and I told him, call Harry Diamond Lab. They still might have it up there. It's north of Philadelphia, north of Washington, D.C.
Do you retain a photograph of this?
Yeah, I have one.
You have one?
I gave it to Senator Glenn, the one I had, but I have another one.
And what did Senator Glenn do with it?
I don't know. I haven't talked to him since I gave it to him.
Well, Dr. Alexander, I can only imagine now, with the book having been out for a while, with the claims the Colonel is making, after all, we're talking about some very serious technologies here, that there would be people coming forward and saying, this Colonel is out of his mind, we developed so-and-so in our lab, and we didn't get any special materials in order to do that, and I've heard none of that. Have you, John?
Oh, you hear some, certainly. And you've got to remember, the way they did it, it makes it untraceable by design. So, I mean, if you remember, what Phil said was that they, if you believe the story, that they were handing it to people already working in the field, getting material that in some cases they thought was Soviet, but that the technology was beginning to move already.
Our laboratory confirmed that. They thought we got it from the Russians.
Well, at that time, and I'm just saying what I believe, our technological advances were far ahead of the Soviets, were they not?
Yes,
in
some
most
areas. Some they weren't.
Yeah, that was not across the board. I mean, there were areas that the Soviets had done some work that exceeded our capabilities.
In fact, we were really, one day, I went to the general, I was the first project officer on anti-missile missile. And I recommended the colonel, a friend of mine. He came to me one day and he said, Phil, I got something very serious. The Soviets can take their ICBMs and change trajectory in the air. That was a very serious thing. They left us almost without any defenses.
In other words, it is not a ballistic missile in the sense that you fire it and it has a specific trajectory and it goes up and comes right back down.
No, it was an ICBM.
So
Intercontinental.
And they acquired this ability before we did?
Yeah, the capability of changing trajectory in space. In fact, we went to General Trudeau and he got alarmed too, because that was a very serious thing. And we went to work on, and we developed a countermeasure within a short time. It had a crash program.
All right,
so like that happened.
Now that you have come forward, Colonel, with this incredible information, surely there are others, other than General Trudeau, who has now passed on, who could confirm what you're saying.
Lately, I had 4 officers come up to me in uniform.
In uniform?
Officers.
And?
They confirmed, 2 colonels confirmed to me that this was true. They knew about it. And a lieutenant colonel came, and the test pilot from B-2 came up to me in uniform.
In uniform?
Yeah, I don't want to say where it was because I don't want anybody looking into it. And they verified this to me just 10 days ago.
They're not prepared to come forward, though.
No, and I did get a letter from, and I don't think if I tell his name, he's McDonald's son, the scientist. And he confirmed to me in a letter he wrote to me before I left home, where he sent me a radius letter, that he talked to people. He was on the Jason committee. And he said that Hughes, North American, and Wright Pat, people who were confirmed that finally they said, He filled in some of the holes that we wondered about all our lives.